All right, folks, well, welcome back and welcome to the third and final installment, the grand finale, the coup de grace of the definitive review and comparison of the Zero Compromise ZC527 versus the Nightforce ATACR 5-25. And folks, I have definitely saved the best for last. We have lots of exciting testing to show you in this video, but I do want to be respectful of your time. So down below, there are chapter markers. You can jump to right wherever you'd like to jump. Now, we do have a lot to cover in this video. Some of the things that we're going to cover in this video are the different options within the Zero Compromise ZC527 lineup. There are lots of options on that. Almost customizable options, if you will, and I've been getting lots of questions and email on that. So I want to make sure that when we're done with this video, we've pretty much have left all questions answered and there's no confusion in that. The other thing that we're definitely going to cover are the different reticles available between both the Zero Compromise and the Nightforce, and I'm going to give you my opinions on those and recommendations. The other thing that I'm going to talk to you about is, and you may have not realized this, but you're really getting the benefits of two reviewers and not just one on this, because a good friend of ours, Ray Helms over at X-Ring, has actually been reviewing this optic pretty much at the exact same time. He got a ZC527, this particular model, the 10 mil, just a few weeks ago. He's been testing that out. He's been watching the videos. We've been talking back and forth and sharing our experiences. And I have two experiences of his that I want to mention to you. One is a really good one. One is not so good. And I'm always going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly on anything we review. He did have a negative experience with this that I'm going to share with you, so stay tuned for that. The other thing we're going to do is a detailed image quality analysis and comparison between these two optics. We are going to do a very fun and informative tracking test on the Zero Compromise, and both before and after a simulated drop test. So you guys are going to really enjoy that because you're going to see me beat this optic up. And of course, there's something wrong with you guys. You guys need Jesus because you always want to see somebody else potentially destroy their expensive stuff. It is what it is. Then I'm going to go into some performance ratings. Folks, we're going to give you performance ratings in many different areas. And then from those, we're going to average them out and give you an overall rating on both of these optics. And yes, I will tell you right now, folks, those are very subjective and essentially my opinion on these optics. But I am trying to be as objective as possible when providing those ratings. And then finally, I'm going to provide you a quick summary and my thoughts on these two optics and how they compare with one another. All right, so the first thing I want to cover are the different options or even models that are available within the ZC527 lineup. So this is the model that I have been reviewing throughout this entire time. And if we look over here, if you folks look right here, you can see that on this particular model, we have a turret that is a locking turret. On top of that, you get 15 mils per revolution on this. And this is your standard model. I think it's great. I do like the fact that we have locking turret on the elevation. And I know not everybody prefers that, right? A lot of people out there prefer to have non-locking turrets on the elevation, and that's perfectly fine. What we have right here is the 10 mil model. And if you'll notice on the turrets, what instead of 15 mils per revolution, what we have is 10 mils per revolution. Now, there are going to be a lot of folks out there that are going to really like this for a couple different reasons. Number one, for all of you rimfire shooters out there where you're dialing a lot of elevation, it's definitely going to help you keep track of where you are on your dial much easier. One thing that I didn't discuss on this that I should have is, folks, right here on the top of every ZC527 is we actually have a revolution indicator. So for you ELR shooters, rimfire shooters that are dialing lots and lots of elevation, I think many of you are going to prefer this particular model. Now, the 10 mil also comes standard with a non-locking turret. And again, I know many of you are going to prefer that non-locking turret. So that is available to you. Just make you aware of that. You still get a locking windage turret on this model. Now, for those of you that would prefer the 15 mil revolution turrets, but you still don't want locking elevation turrets, you can actually order that. That is an option as well. It's $150 more, so there is a small fee. Or there's a fee, regardless of how you feel, how big or small it is, but that option is available to you. Another benefit of this 10 mil turret is, given that there is a little bit more space in between each hash mark, just visually from the shooter's perspective, it's a little easier to distinguish exactly where you are on that turret. And also just the fact that there's more physical space as you turn this, it's easier to not over dial. You guys know how when you're trying to move that dial quick, sometimes you overshoot or undershoot. Again, it's just a little easier to know exactly where you are on that dial visually and spatially at all times. So I think that is a clear benefit for many people that are going to prefer that. For me, the way that I shoot, the calibers I shoot, the distance that I shoot, I think I prefer the 15 mil Revolution, just because I'm pretty much never gonna be dialing up to 15 mils. I'm gonna stay, all of my elevation corrections are gonna be within one revolution, which I think I prefer, but that is strictly a preference issue. And it's good to know that Zero Compromise is offering some different options for different shooters out there. The other thing that you won't see on a lot of companies out there is the fact that not only do they offer different turrets, different reticles, but you can also get these in FDE or black. Nightforce is a good example of this. I don't think that they currently offer the 5-25 ATACR in FDE, but they do offer the 7-35 in FDE. So there's a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more customization or preference options when it comes to Zero Compromise. Just something to think about. The other thing I want to make you aware of is, besides the ZC527 model and the ZC840 model that I showed you, which is an 8-40, they also offer the ZC420, which is a 4-20 by 50. So this is the ZC420, and I really like this optic. There's something about the dimensions of this, the proportions of it, because you're getting a 36 millimeter tube just like you get on the ZC527. The difference obviously is the objective lens. You're getting a 50 millimeter objective lens. But as far as all the other features that you see on the ZC527, you're getting on this 4-20 power as well. And I really like this. It's 12.8 inches. I'm not sure what the weight is. I'll throw that up there somewhere. But this is a super nice optic. We're definitely gonna have to do a full review on this. It's a good excuse for, Gary to add one to his personal collection, which I'm definitely going to. But I think there are a lot of different rifles out there that this is going to be perfect for. I also think this would look really good in the FDE. And there again, you have multiple reticles available. You can get this in FDE or black. And that brings me to another point, folks. Whether it's the Nightforce or the Zero Compromise, there are just a ton of different options available. And obviously it's very difficult and expensive to keep every single option in stock at any one time. So if you're looking for any of these, make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com. If what you're looking for isn't there, give us a call, shoot us an email. I promise you, we'll do everything we can to take care of you. And they just came out with a new kind of hunter-oriented optic, and that is the ZC Hunter, which is a 1.7 to 12 by 50. So you're getting a 1.7 to 12 power range there, which is a magnification range that a lot of people are going to want and prefer for many different applications, not just hunting. So before we get into the reticle comparison, I'm gonna share with you some kind of anecdotal information I've gotten from Ray over at X-Ring. So Ray called me after watching part 1, and we were discussing my observations on how well the ZC527 handles Mirage compared to the Nightforce. And essentially he was like, man, I think you almost undersold that a little bit. He's like, this thing handles Mirage so well that honestly, in a competition, it could mean the difference between an extra couple points. So, that was his statement on that. And, the Zico does, man, it just handles Mirage better than the Nightforce. And that was his observation on that. So I thought that was worth mentioning to you. On another note, in a less positive experience, we might say, he did call me the day before yesterday, or it might have been yesterday. And he said, look, man, I went to go take the Zico out to shoot. He said he could not, no matter how much he pulled, could not get the windage knob to unlock. So he couldn't change that. He ended up being able to fix it. He said he had to use I forgot what he said, like a plastic screwdriver or something like that. He was able to actually pry and unlock the windage knob. I don't even know how that could happen. He's not sure how it happened. That happened once. I actually scoured the internet. I couldn't find anybody else mentioning that in any sort of review, complaint, or a forum. So hopefully it was just a one-time incident that was just kind of a fluke. you know, again, I've taken these off and I don't even know how mechanically that could happen. But he did have that experience, but it has worked fine ever since. But I would be remiss and quite frankly dishonest if I had some negative information like that and I didn't share it with you. So just be aware of that. All right, so we're gonna do a quick comparison of the different reticles that are available through Nightforce and Zero Compromise. And I'm basically just gonna give you my recommendations on these. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on, you know, analyzing the pros and cons of these reticles. That's something we could do an entire video on, but it's not gonna be today, that's for sure. All right, so the first reticle that we're gonna cover is the Reticle MOAR that's available through Nightforce. And by the way, folks, on all these Nightforce reticles, the area that you see in red is what is illuminated in those reticles, just so that you're aware of that. I am not a fan of any sort of duplex reticles. I don't recommend this or any duplex reticle, so just be aware of that as we go forward. Here's another duplex reticle. This is the MIL-C. Not gonna recommend that. Here is the MOA-XT. Now, for those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of MOA in any circumstances, but I will tell you, if you're a diehard MOA guy, this is probably one of the best MOA hold-off reticles available. I really like the fact that we got a floating dot in the middle, and this is very similar to the MIL-XT, which we're gonna cover in just a second. So here we are, we have the MIL-XT. If you are new to shooting or you're new to using a hold-off reticle, this is probably one of the best ones that you can get into. It's never gonna hold you back, no matter how proficient you get using a hold-off reticle, and it has everything you really need. It doesn't have some of the different quick reference features that we're gonna cover in a minute, but this is a great reticle, especially for competition. It's fairly clean, it's simple enough, but it has all the information that you need to always hold off. And folks, I'm a huge proponent of using holdovers and hold-offs compared to dialing. We are so conditioned to just dial everything and then to look center here. It really does hold us back when it comes to speed, efficiency, and quite frankly, precision and accuracy as well. Your reticle is always going to be more accurate and more precise than the mechanical adjustments that you're gonna make on those turrets. Now, it does get a little funky if you start zooming in and we get to the edges of the glass, right? There can be some distortion there. As long as you're staying within the 80, 90% of the center of that glass, you're gonna be just fine, and it's gonna be more accurate than anything that you're going to dial. All right, so the next reticle, and many of you have seen these, probably one of the first, what you call a Christmas tree or hold-off reticle, and that is the Horus H59. This is available with the Nightforce. This is an excellent reticle under any circumstances. I definitely would recommend that. All right, so what we have here, folks, is this is available in both the Nightforce and the Zero Compromise. This is the Trimmer 3. What we have in this is a lot of different quick reference, from wind dots to ranging capabilities. This reticle has many different applications. It's an excellent and well-designed reticle, but there is a learning curve, and I don't think it's best for competition. We'll just leave it at that. But if you are hunting, sniper competition type things like that, I would probably recommend it, but for PRS and NRL, probably not the best reticle. All right, so what we have here is the Zero Compromise reticles, and this one is their MOA reticle. Again, it's a duplex reticle. A lot of F-class shooters, a lot of bench rush shooters are gonna like duplex reticles in general, and I think you're gonna like this one. It does have we have a dot there in the middle that is, center dot is 0.124 MOA, so there you go. So the next reticle we're looking at here is Zero Compromise Impact 1. Simple duplex, again, not my cup of tea, but there are lots of folks out there that are going to prefer this reticle. We have some additional information down here that you can look at. Gives you everything you need. Go ahead and screen grab that if you're interested in those exact measurements. This right here is Zero Compromise Impact 2. Not a bad hold-off reticle. I don't like the fact that we only have our hold-off information over here on the left-hand side. I want it on both sides. That's how I use it. That's how I quick reference it. There are better reticles that we're gonna look at in just a second. All right, so here we have the Impact 2X. And as you can see, as we click back here to the Impact 2, they basically notice exactly what I said, and they have essentially put hold-off information on both sides of the reticle as it should be. It is an improvement. I don't personally prefer this reticle, but some people out there might. All right, so what we have right here is a Zero Compromise Impact 3 reticle. I really like both the Impact 3 and the Impact 3X that we're gonna take a look at in a second. This is probably one of the best reticles that I have ever used, folks. I really like, and this is the reticle that is in my review optic. And while I did choose this reticle specifically so that I could kind of toy around with this ranging feature, you know, I can range, estimate, and do mil relation with the standard reticle all day long. So this is really not that big of a deal to me. Unless you have specific items out there that are 18 inches, 9 inches, 12 inches, and 6 inches. I would actually prefer if this was 20 inches as opposed to 18. The average male is 20 inches wide at the shoulder, so that would be a better feature specifically for a sniper operations-oriented optic. So I really like some of the features in this particular reticle. I think, generally speaking, what I would recommend and what I prefer is the Impact 3. I love this reticle, folks. I really do. I like these open dots. I know this is kind of blurring a little bit because I'm trying to digitally zoom in too much. I love these open dots. I love this reticle overall. I really like having this entire area above the reticle open for seeing trace, seeing misses, impacts, or for spotting other folks. I love the fact that we have a very fine floating dot right there in the center. I think this reticle is every bit as good, if not better, than the Mil XT reticle. So if you're going with the Nightforce, I would highly recommend the Mil XT. But when it comes to the Zero Compromise reticles, I really can't recommend the Impact 3X enough. I really do like it. I like this open area up here. It's never gonna hold you back, whether you're doing competition, whether you're doing military or law enforcement sniper operations. This reticle is gonna do everything that you need it to do, and I really do like these open dots at the 1 mil marks. All right, so here's the Trimmer 5. This is kind of an updated version of the Trimmer 3. Not gonna spend a lot of time on it, but essentially what they wanted to do was provide all the benefits of the Trimmer 3, but clean it up, get rid of some of the clutter so that it's a little bit more oriented toward competition use as well. So if we look right here on the left here, we have the Trimmer 3. You can see that's just a little bit busier than the Trimmer 5. It does look to me, and I don't know if this is a perfectly accurate representation, but it does look on the Trimmer 5 that some of these lines are a little bit thicker than the Trimmer 3. One of the things I do like about my optic in a Trimmer 3, I have a Nightforce 7-35 with the Trimmer 3 in it. I like these finer lines. If you do a little bit of research on either of the Trimmer reticles and you understand what you're getting into and understand the capabilities of these, because there are some really cool features of this that can make you an extremely efficient shooter when it comes to these wind dots, learning to range very quickly. With that being said, if you are not used to using a holdover reticle, the two reticles I can't recommend enough are the Mil XT for the Nightforce and the Impact 3X for the Zero Compromise. I think either one of those you'll be extremely happy with. All right, folks, so I'm gonna attempt to get a tracking test on camera. A tracking test, if you do it correctly, do it precisely, it's one of the most difficult things you can do, period. You gotta make sure the target's at the right distance. You gotta make sure that your optic is stable and everything else. If you wanna make it twice as hard, try to capture it on video. I've been out here for 4.5 hours just setting this up. And of course, anytime that you move anything or adjust anything, it throws everything else out of whack. So I've already done this tracking test, and you know, if this doesn't make the video or it comes out a little weird, I can tell you right now that this thing is tracking 100%, as well as the Nightforce. And I have the Nightforce on a tracking test in the Arkin video. So we're gonna attempt to get this, and you can see here, folks, that this is pretty lined up. All our grids are in the right place. There might be some slight plumb issues, but again, as soon as I start messing with any of these two adjustment screws back here, which kind of give it some tilt and cant, it throws everything else out of whack. So this is the best I've gotten it. We're going to not tempt fate, and we're gonna try to use this right here. All right, so right now we're at the very top. This tracking target has 9 mils of elevation. We are currently at 15.1. We're gonna bring it down 9, which actually means we're gonna go up in elevation, but it'll bring the reticle down to 9 mils. So right now we're at 15.1. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to 24.1. So I'm going to take this on up. Hopefully it doesn't move too much, just me moving this thing. What happened to our camera here? Our camera came out of adjustment a little bit, but this right here is at 24.1. So that's exactly 9 mils. All right, so what I'm gonna do is bring the reticle to the left half just to get to that box. You guys can see we're on the right edge of that line. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys can see that we are dead on that right there. Let's go a whole 10 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, that's 10. All right, let's take it one click over just to get dead center. So we're a little more centered there. Now let's go 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so again, folks, this thing is tracking exactly the way that it should. The only limitations we have here is the setup. I actually ordered like a machinist's jig block thing that has 4-axis that I'm gonna try to put a scope mount on. We'll put that on something heavy. So for future testing, I don't know, hopefully that'll make things a lot easier and I'll have a lot more solid of a setup. But yeah, folks, this thing is tracking perfectly. But again, when you're talking about an optic that costs as much as this does, that's the least that we would expect. But again, quite frankly, there's a lot of optics out there that cost a lot of money that their internals are not tracking nearly as precisely as this or many other optics out there. So I do know that when it comes to Nightforce, I've never had one that had any major sort of tracking issues, and it's nice to see that we are getting very precise tracking out of the Zero Compromise. All right, folks, so we are going to simulate a drop test, and this is the one that I know all you guys love to see me beat up my own optics. All right, so what I have here, folks, is just a thick piece of, this is just hard rubber, almost like horse mat. It's freaking hard, all right? But what I don't wanna do is dent, scratch, or scuff up my scope needlessly. I think we can get plenty of impact on this without actually having to, I'm just gonna take this off just in case here. All right, folks, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do 5 hits in each direction. All right, so we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, that is harder than a normal fall right there. So we got 5 smacks on all axis. And what I'm gonna do, folks, one thing that I definitely suggest you do if you ever drop an optic or your optic's been stored a while or you got a new optic, is once you do that, go ahead and spin those turrets around. Make sure you work those loose. So we're gonna do that. Everything still feels like it's functioning just fine. All right, folks, so now what I'm gonna do is get this thing set back up over there, get the camera on there, get it all lined up. You have no idea what a pain in the ass that is to do, but I do it for you. So make sure you like, subscribe, throw a comment down below. Hit that bell notifications so you're notified when we release new content. And every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, make sure you join us for our live Dangerous Liberty podcast where we talk about guns, gear, training, politics. We have special guests on all the time. It's a lot of fun. You get to join in on the conversation. Also, if you'd like to support this channel and our efforts, go check out our Patreon. That's linked down below. But also, or more importantly, folks, for all your gear needs, make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com where we only carry gear that we have personally tested, we believe in. We would really appreciate if you purchase, whether you want this optic, Nightforce, or any other gear, make sure you go through us. We really appreciate that support. So anyways, let me go get this thing lined up for you. Let's see how this thing tracks after we beat it up. We're right there in the box. We can still see that for the most part, the reticle is lining up with the rest of the grid. It is a little off bringing the reticle up, so we're gonna go down 2 more, 2 more mils. So we're gonna we'll go to 4.2 first. That's 4.2. All right, dead center of that. Now we're gonna go to 3.2. 3.2. Go to 3.2. Boom, dead center of that. And then we're gonna go up 1.5. So we will go to 2.2. And then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so we're at half. Now we're gonna go right 0.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're right there. We're gonna go 10 clicks to the next box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're in the same spot. Go 10 more. We should be at the right edge of the next box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right edge of the next box. Go 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we are, folks. There you go, folks. I smacked this thing 15 times, pretty darn hard, and it's still tracking perfectly. So I think it passes the tracking test with flying colors. We still got a lot more to cover, so stay tuned. All right, so I can tell you right now, I'm not happy with the results of that video. Just the instability of the tripod I was using. There was enough play between the entire setup. You know, the results are good. Folks, when I was able to actually get behind there, not using the camera that was hooked up to it, which was another variable of frustration, to be quite frank. But when I was able to get behind there, hold things in place, and just with my eye do the tracking tests, the results were perfect every single time. But you guys saw just turning the windage or elevation knob, put enough torque on there to where it made everything kind of skew a little bit. It is what it is. And I know it opens me up to a lot of criticism with the YouTube snipers out there. That's fine. I don't really care because I know the results are good. What I am going to do in the future, and I feel like I owe you another tracking test on that I can show you. But what I am in the middle of is trying to come up with a much better tracking testing jig and setup overall. What I have here is a vise that is going to allow me to actually, you know, we can actually cant left and right so we can get everything aligned. And then I have this jig that after I modify this, I'm gonna set this down in there. And this is some sort of machinist jig, but it moves forward, back, up, down, left, right. And it allows me to rotate as well and control that. And I'm gonna end up mounting a scope base on top of this. The other thing I've done is I've actually designed my own tracking chart that instead of 100 yards, I'll be able to do tracking tests at 50 yards. So I'm gonna design a very sturdy, heavy duty, stable tracking chart that I can set out at 50 yards. And instead of only getting 9 mils up, down, left, and right, I'll be able to get 20 mils up, down, left, and right. So I think that's much better testing criteria and will give us much better results. Because if you have an optic that is, you know, maybe it's only 2% or 5% off of what it should be, that's not necessarily going to show up all that well in a tracking chart that only goes to 9 mils. We need to get some additional elevation and windage in there so we can track it over a much further distance. But I still have to even test that because I'm not sure how that's going to pan out, because even when we're going from the bottom all the way up to the top, we're obviously changing the distance from the optic to the tracking chart. So there might be some even variance in there. I don't know until I get it all put together and do some more testing on that. But what I'd like to do is be able to provide you very accurate, very precise testing and be able to show it to you on a much more stable setup and testing jig overall. So I can throw an optic on there, I can get good testing, throw another one on there, get good testing, very quick, easy, and efficiently. We'll see how it all plays out. But I apologize for the instability. I wasn't happy with the overall testing setup. I don't like the instability that I'm having to show you because we are getting a lot of movement throughout that, and it is what it is. But I can tell you within the confines of the 9 mils of elevation that we had and the, I don't know, I think six or so on the windage, this optic tracked perfectly. As I'm looking through it, I just wasn't able to show you with the level of fidelity that I wanted to, given the overall setup. And you can either trust me on that or you don't. And if you don't, guess what? There's other channels you can go watch. It is what it is, but we did the best we could, and we're gonna do better in the future. So enjoy the rest of the video. All right, so we're gonna do a quick optical comparison, but we're gonna keep this comparison very narrow and within the confines of what I can actually show you. As far as optical quality, the only thing you're seeing in these images is the optical quality of the cameras, which is really poor for what we're trying to do. You can see the distortion and silhouetting around the edges, which is due to the camera and not the optics themselves. Understand that these images do not in any way represent the quality of the image you can see through the Zero Compromise or the Nightforce. With all that said, one area of performance that we can judge is the field of view. So right here we have a Coyote target that's at 430 yards. We have the Zico set at a minimum magnification of 5x, and you can see where I have the crosshairs. Now, if we look to the far right of this image, you can see a white silhouette target. Now, if we didn't have the camera causing additional silhouetting, we'd actually be able to see another few feet to the right. Now, on the very far left, you can see where this bush is right here, and this really does give us a good representation of the field of view that you can expect out of the Zero Compromise. Now, let's take a look at the Nightforce ATACR 5-25. All right, so now in this image, we have the exact same target, and the Nightforce is also at its minimum magnification of 5x. I'm going to show you a side-by-side split image in just a second so that we can analyze a bit further, but notice the Nightforce reticle is further to the left of where I had the Zero Compromise, and even so, the furthest limit of our field of view is about the same as the Zero Compromise. So we're getting a significantly wider field of view out of the Zero Compromise at the same magnification. We can also see from these images that even with the wider field of view, the Zero Compromise image looks larger. And this is something that I've noticed time and time again every time I go back and forth between these optics. When they are set at the exact same magnification, the Zero Compromise always looks like we're using additional magnification even though we're not. So with the Zero Compromise, you're getting a larger image and a larger field of view, which is kind of crazy. All right, so here's a different perspective of these two images. We have the Zero Compromise on the top and the Nightforce on the bottom, and you can see that there is a huge difference in the field of view and how much larger the eye box is on the Zero Compromise. And I know some of you out there are going to accuse me of playing with this image, but this is the exact same camera using the same settings and mounted the exact same way. This is exactly what you get just looking through them. With the Zero Compromise, you get a slightly larger, wider field of view than the Nightforce, but to be fair, these are things you really wouldn't notice unless you have them side by side and looking through them with the intent of trying to see these minor differences. It's hard to tell from any of the footage that I collected, but the Zero Compromise image is just noticeably brighter in all conditions compared to the Nightforce. You also see a lot more distortion in the Nightforce due to mirage. In heavy mirage, the Zero Compromise image just looks a lot cleaner, and you don't see those targets dancing around on the mirage nearly as much as the Nightforce. But those are differences that I just wasn't able to capture through the cameras with enough definition to illustrate the advantage that Zero Compromise had over the Nightforce. So on that, you're just going to take my word for it. So given the limitations of these film through scope cameras, the last thing we can fairly judge from these images is the differences in color and contrast. I don't know if it has more to do with light transmission or the coatings used by either of these companies, but the colors and contrast are much better in the Zero Compromise. This is the same camera used with the same white balance settings, and I've done no color correction on any of these images. So while the colors may not be perfectly accurate, the difference you can see between them is. You can see right here that the Zero Compromise has warmer color tones, and the contrast between colors is greater. In comparison, the Nightforce has a much flatter image when it comes to color, and the contrast between colors isn't nearly as distinct. All right, so this has been a long review, and we're at the home stretch of this thing. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to give you some performance ratings in many different areas. I'm going to put them up on the screen right now. These are the different areas that we're going to provide individual ratings, and then from that, we're going to give an overall total score there at the bottom. And if you will, go ahead and screen grab that, or just hit pause, and then go ahead and provide your own ratings. Put those down in the comments below. I'm very curious to see what you come up with versus what I come up with. For those of you out there that actually own both these optics, I kind of like to see how your conclusions, match with mine, or don't match, or completely different. So put those in the comments. That'll be interesting and fun to play around with. All right, so the first area of performance we're going to provide a rating for is build quality, fit, and finish. I think both of these optics are excellent, but I'm going to give the Zero Compromise a 9.5, and I'm going to give the Nightforce an 8.5. All right, so the next rating we're going to provide is the controls and features. For the controls and features, I'm giving Zero Compromise a 9.5, and we're giving the Nightforce an 8.5. All right, so the next category we're going to talk about is the available options. And I think Zero Compromise just really gives you a lot more available customizable options that are going to fit your preferences a lot better. You get your standard turrets in 15 mil per revolution, or you can get the 10. I think that's really cool, a really nice option to have. Of course, you get MOA or mil. You can get any of their optics in FDE or black. And then even if you want one of the optics that normally only comes with locking turrets, you can delete that essentially, right? So you just get a lot more options with this. Of course, with the Nightforce, unfortunately, you don't even get the option of any locking turrets, much less, you know, a different rev count for the turret and things like that. So it is cool to see that Zero Compromise is just giving a little bit more options that are available to their consumers. So for that, the available options, I'm giving a 9.5 on the Zero Compromise. We're giving an 8 on the Nightforce. All right, so the next category we're going to discuss is the optical quality. I'm going to keep this short and simple. We're giving a 9.5 on the Zero Compromise. We're giving an 8.5 on the Nightforce. The next area is turret tracking. I'm giving both of these optics a 10. As far as I can tell, within what I can test, they're tracking 100% true. I do think it's really important that in the future, we're able to establish testing well beyond just 9 mils. I think, you know, it's at that 20, 25 mil mark that if we're seeing discrepancies, that's where we're going to see it, not necessarily over a short span of just 9 mils, but hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. And once we get that established, we'll put these both on the testing block again and get a much more detailed test out of them. All right, so the next category we're going to talk about is reliability and durability. I think ultimately the only way that you're going to get a good sense of how reliable or durable an optic is over a much longer span of time than I've been able to spend with this, or even how long Zero Compromise has been on the market. Nightforce is one of the most reliable, durable optics on the market, period. So we're given a reliability and durability rating of 10 on the Nightforce. I'm giving a reliability and durability rating of 8.5 on the Zero Compromise. You know, even within the short time that we tested this, of course, Ray did have a little bit of issue with his turret not being able to unlock. That's not great news, to say the least. So 8.5, 10 on reliability and durability. All right, so the last category, and this was probably the category that took me the longest to decide a number on, is value. And I'm giving both of these optics an 8.5. And the reason being is that you're getting what you pay for, but you also pay for everything that you get out of either one of these. You know, the Zero Compromise is significantly more than the Nightforce, but I also think the extra money that you're going to pay for the Zero Compromise is commensurate with the amount of additional performance, features, and options that you're getting out of the Zero Compromise over the Nightforce. I do think that both of these optics are the best you can get at their current price point. You know, there are definitely some optics out there that are cheaper than the Nightforce ATACR that come within striking distance of performance, but I do think that when you take a holistic overview look at what you get, compare that to the Nightforce ATACR 5-25, I still think the Nightforce is the best you can get at that price point. There's still some things that fall short when you're spending less money with what's currently available. So we are going to take a look at some additional optics and we'll do some more comparisons and we'll see it, you know, how that all turns out. But at the end of the day, we have a total score on the Zero Compromise ZC527, total score of 65 out of 70, and the Nightforce ATACR 5-25 F1 with a total score of 62 out of 70. So I think those are very fair. Let me know how those numbers compare to what you came up with. I'm interested to see that down in the comments. All right, so for my final thoughts and overall summary on both of these optics, you know, folks, at the end of the day, both of these are Ferraris, right? And if you want to drive a Ferrari, you're gonna pay those prices. You know, at the end of the day, my goal with this video is to make sure you know exactly what you're getting out of both of these, and hopefully that helps you make those decisions, because ultimately it is your decision whether you want the Nightforce, whether you want the Zero Compromise, or whether you want something else entirely. I don't think you're gonna go wrong with either one of these, that's for sure. You know, there's definitely a good argument out there that says, you know, we don't need the absolute best gear available. That's true. But it is also nice to have the peace of mind knowing that your optics or gear or whatever you're using is never gonna hold you back. So these will never hold you back as a shooter. I promise you that. You can keep these. These are a good investment. I think either one of these, you're going to keep them. You're going to use them for a long time. If you decide to sell them, these are going to hold their value better than a lot of the cheaper scopes out there or the less desired scopes out there. So I think these are great purchases, which is why we carry both of these brands, and we will always, unless something dramatically changes, we will always carry these brands, because Nightforce and Zero Compromise represent some of the best optics out there available. It's just a fact. All right, folks, I hope that was helpful. I hope that was informative. And if you were considering buying either one of these, hopefully we helped you make up your mind. If you weren't, hopefully we gave you some good educational information so that you can make a good decision on your next optic. Really, that's what it's all about. And I'm sure I left some things out, so if you have any additional questions, make sure you leave those down in the comments below. Also, make sure you follow us on our other social media channels. Make sure you're joining us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for our Dangerous Liberty podcast. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, we have a link down below as well. And you know, while guns and gear are great, what we're really about is training. So make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com. Go check out our upcoming training schedule. And folks, for those of you that are interested in long-range training, start off doing things right. Ray Helms and I from X-Ring, we have joined together. We are now offering the XP Long Range Academy courses. And I promise you, we're going to provide you the best long-range training available. It's going to save you so much time, money, and energy on wasted gear, wasted ammunition, wasted time and frustration out the range. We're going to get you set up right. So make sure you go check out the XP Long Range Academy courses. We also offer handgun courses, tactical carbine, medical courses, driving courses, on-road, off-road. So make sure you come train with us. I promise you, you'll be glad you did. But until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.